My name is Mary Noland, and I'm a public school teacher in Indianapolis. The main thing that I would change about education right now is the politics behind education and the idea that high-stakes testing is a valid way to gather data and make decisions about teachers, children, and schools. I feel that high-stakes testing is something that we spend way too much money on, and I also feel like it's driving the curriculum too much to the point where children aren't interested in school anymore, and that there's an interpretation that more testing is actually better teaching, which isn't true. And this is a trend that we're in very deeply, and it's something that really needs to change if there's going to be any kind of better approach to education and all the issues that go along with it. Usually the feedback that I get is from my students in class. I am able to see how they respond to me, how they respond to my assignments, what their growth is and their development in the course of a year. I also get a lot of feedback from my colleagues who help and support me, give me new ideas. And then, of course, I get feedback from my administrators who are assigned to evaluate me every year. But most of the time, my administrators know the least about me because they don't have very much time to observe me and spend time in my classroom. My colleagues and my students are definitely the ones that I come into contact with the most and with whom I have the best conversations and collaborate with the most. My name's Mary Noland, and I'm a public school teacher in Indianapolis. My greatest success as a school teacher has been working with other teachers, forming strong relationships with my students, and sticking with it. I feel that working as a teacher is very difficult, and it's really important to collaborate with other people and form relationships with the other people in whatever building it is that you're working in. And so my greatest success is forming those relationships, nurturing those relationships, and helping other people who are in the same profession as I am and who need support as well. I'm Mary, and I'm a high school teacher in Indianapolis. I teach public school. My biggest challenge in the classroom would be working with such a variety of students. Every class that I've ever had has a wide range of abilities, of cultures, of languages, and so matching the curriculum and the teaching that I'm doing to everybody's, meeting them where they are, in other words, is the biggest challenge, and then helping pull them up from where they are to where one thinks they should be. And forming relationships with the students who have many problems, who do not have a strong family system, and who are often very negative about school and defensive towards their teachers. Hi, my name is Mary. I teach in a public school in Indianapolis. The biggest challenge that I face is working with all students, regardless of their ability level, because anytime you teach in a classroom situation, you're working with a wide range of abilities. So the best way to tackle it is to get to know the students and understand where they are in their abilities, and also have an understanding of their lives at home, and talk to their parents and work with them so that they can all make progress regardless of where they are when they come in your classroom. Hi, my name is Mary, and I teach in Indianapolis in a public school. The best part of teaching is the relationships that you form and the successes that you feel when you've worked with a group of children for a year or two. I've taught in classrooms where I have kids for 2, sometimes 3 years, and you really get to know them, you really get to know their families, you spend a lot of time working with them on particular pieces of their education and their ability to socialize and learn how to be in the world. And it's the best thing is seeing them progress and trust you and learn from you. Hi, my name is Mary, and I teach in a public school in Indianapolis. Something I've done in the past year to make myself a better teacher is to change my job. I now work at a school where I'm very happy. There is a lot more collaboration with other teachers here. We value other aspects of education besides just testing, even though there's a lot of pressure to participate in that, and we have to. But I'm much more able to develop myself professionally here and to collaborate with other people and take their ideas and use them in my classroom. And also the kind of job that I have enables me to work closely with children because it's a small group of kids, it's a small school, and that has made me a better teacher. My name is Mary, and I teach in a public school in Indianapolis. The way to introduce high expectations to my students is by having high expectations of them. So when they come into my class from the very first day, I assume that they're able to do the work that I'm going to put in front of them. I talk to them as if they're able to do the work that I'm going to put in front of them. And then if they need help, I help them. Of course, in every class, there's a wide range of skill level and ability level and many different ways that children learn and process information. But I want the kids to know as soon as they walk in the door that I think they're great, that I think they're smart, and that they hopefully feel that way about themselves and that their parents feel that way about them and that they're ready to learn. And then I move from there. But I always let them know that what my expectations are that they're very high and that I want them to complete their work and do the best job that they can. And if they don't, I make them do it over. Because I know a lot of times kids can be lazy and they can try and turn in work that is not up to their level. And it becomes very clear very quickly who those kids are, who's lazy, who's struggling, who needs extra help. And so I just provide them with what they need and let them know that I expect them to work really hard. My name is Mary, and I teach in a public school in Indianapolis. I think the main thing that a lot of people that I talk to who are not teachers don't know about school and about teaching is how difficult a job it is. Clearly, teachers are not paid very well, so as a profession, I think that we're underrated in terms of how much and how hard we work. I also think that people would be really surprised by the variety of kids that we work with, the variety of issues that they bring to school. I work with a lot of children who are poor and struggle and come to school with a lot of the stressors that affect poor children. And most people who haven't spent a week in a classroom or a month in a classroom really don't have any idea how much work it takes to get through to children and to help them learn, regardless of their circumstances, but particularly if they're from a high-risk situation. And it takes a lot of time and energy and a lot of intuition, and you can't just put work in front of kids and give them assignments and give them tests and expect them to do it without forming those relationships and really knowing who they are. And I think that most people who work in other professions, especially that don't work with children and families, have no idea what it's like to be in a classroom with a group of kids. My name is Mary, and I teach in an Indianapolis public school. I think the main reason that kids drop out of school, well, there is no main reason, actually. There are many reasons that children drop out of school. A lot of it has to do with their family situation. It has to do with, potentially it has to do with the fact that they don't have that presumption in their family that they should finish school. There are a lot of kids in this city and many cities across the United States, obviously, that whose parents never finished high school. And so it's not a value that they hold, or if they do, they don't stress it towards their children enough, and their children know that their parents didn't finish high school, and maybe their parents are working, and so they just figure it's okay to get a job and they don't need to finish high school. I also think it's because a lot of school is boring, and a lot of school is tedious and takes a lot of perseverance. And I think in our culture these days, compared to when I was a child, I think that because of technology and because of all of the quick entertainment that we have and instant communication, that school does seem more tedious in some ways. And if it's not taught creatively, if it doesn't appeal to students' strengths, if it doesn't allow students to learn in any sort of creative or innovative way, they don't value it as much. And it makes it really difficult for them to find a reason to stay in school, especially if they are able to drop out and get a job or get an illegal job, which often happens. I think that, the dropout rate is not going to change unless education becomes more innovative and creative and less dependent on the old-fashioned ways of teaching as well as on high-stakes testing. My name is Mary, and I teach in a public school in Indianapolis. I think the main way, it's difficult to keep kids in school who want to drop out, who really want to drop out, but I think the main way to keep kids in school who are not consistent in their attendance, who have issues that are keeping them from caring about school, and who don't have that model in their lives, the best way is to find out what makes them tick and to help them find what their passion is and set goals and figure out how to reach those goals. And find the right school. A lot of kids aren't in the school that will enable them to do something that they really care about. So because we have a lot of variety of school programs and because we have a lot of ideas about how education should be carried out, I think if a student is known by a teacher and has a relationship with even just one teacher, but hopefully with several teachers, those people in the school building can really focus in on a student and figure out what's going on with that student so that they know that the student is maybe thinking about dropping out, but also figure out a way to keep them in school and find ways to help them follow their passion. My name is Mary, and I teach in a public school in Indianapolis. The resources and support that the community can provide are plentiful. First of all, a lot of schools need more adults in the building. A lot of volunteers would be great. There are a lot of kids that need to be read to and need help with math and need after-school programs. We need a lot more after-school programs in the arts and sports, things that kids really care about. Money is a great thing. I don't feel like public education is supported monetarily enough, even though a lot of people think that money is not the answer. But actually, it is an answer. It is really helpful to have better funding and to be able to support the amount of technology that students need these days. Manpower, woman power, very important. And also to support teachers and to, instead of making the assumption that teachers aren't doing a good job, to make the assumption that they are working really hard and that they have the best interest of their students and the community in mind, and have an awareness that teaching is a really difficult job. It's multifaceted and it requires great skill. It's not something that you can come into just as the person off the street who may know a lot about chemistry or may know a lot about poetry. You really need to want to teach, and I think the community has this perception that anybody can teach, and it's absolutely not true. Most people wouldn't want to teach, but also many people can't teach. And so to support teachers, I think, is really, really important, and to allow schools to be creative community centers where families are welcome and where a lot of interesting things are happening, not just boring standard education. My name is Mary, and I teach in a public school in Indianapolis. The resources and assistance that a community can provide for schools has to do with money and equipment in schools. Technology is always a problem, keeping technology going and up for students. Also, we need more adults in the building. We need tutors. We need people to help kids with reading, with math. We need after-school teachers who are willing to volunteer so that children who don't have the money don't have to pay for dance classes, music classes, playing sports. So there's many ways that the community can help and provide assistance. Also, to have a good attitude about education and about teaching, and understand that it's a valuable and high-level profession. My name is Mary, and I teach in a public school in Indianapolis. In the quest to improve graduation rates, I would say our ally are parents and people who are actually in education, who are in the buildings teaching, the administrators, the teachers, the assistants, the custodians, the lunch ladies, people who are actually involved in the process of working with children every day in schools. I think the people that are not our allies are the politicians, the people who make decisions about education who are not educators, of which there are plenty, and the people who feel that giving kids more tests is really teaching. I think that the more that we do that, the higher our dropout rate is going to become, the less children are actually going to learn and be ready for college and post-secondary life. And we really need to change that paradigm so that that we're all working together to really provide creative and innovative education to children that's well-funded, that's equally funded across neighborhoods, and that takes care of everyone in the community.